for joining me today. So, the U.S. Congress is considering the Afghan Adjustment Act, and it includes Section 6, Part D, pertaining to opening an office in lieu of embassy in Afghanistan. Is this a bad idea?
Well, opening a U.S.-funded office in today's Afghanistan is not as simple as it may seem.
Can you explain?
Yes. Ask yourself, Jazz, will there be Americans in this office? Will these Americans receive hazard pay? And if so, then Afghanistan is a war zone. In that case, who are the good guys and who are the bad guys in this war zone?
What do you mean?
Well, yesterday, the Taliban in Afghanistan were the bad guys. They killed 3,000 American soldiers. Are they still the bad guys today? Now, who will provide security for this U.S.-funded office? Will it be the U.S. Marines? Are we deploying the Marines back in some shape or form back to Kabul, Afghanistan? Or will it be the Haqqani and the Taliban providing security for us? If the latter, do we realize we're giving U.S. taxpayers money to the killers of American soldiers? How will we pay rent? Who do we pay property taxes to? Who do we call if there is a riot outside of this office? When 1% of the 40 million Afghans decide to show up outside of this office to be evacuated. Not to America, but to any country where there's food and to a place where they don't have to sell their organs or their children in order to feed their other starving children. Who do we call to manage these riots and protests? Do we call the Taliban and Haqqani fighters of the un-Islamic Emirates of Afghanistan? What's the difference between this office and the HKIA office we created back in August 2021? Back then, we announced that Kabul airport was a sort of office from where we would be evacuating Afghans. I don't have to remind you of what happened back then. How long before there's a Benghazi-style attack? How long before ISIS sends out a suicide bomber and kills the Afghans gathered outside of this U.S. office in lieu of embassy? For the sole reason that there's a U.S. flag flying overhead. Do we then compensate the families of the victims who lost their lives outside of our office? Or do we just pack up and leave?
That does not make any sense at all.
Exactly. It doesn't make sense. There is no need for a U.S. government-funded office in today's conditions in today's Afghanistan. A private company or an NGO would be able to carry out whatever this office in lieu of embassy is intended to carry out far more efficiently than our government, so long as this NGO or this private company is fully funded by our government and fully supported by our State Department. Remember, our failure during the official evacuations run by the government was the reason why there is now a Legend Group, a Moral Compass Federation, and the likes. That failure is the reason veterans came together and have finally managed to solve this problem. And we solved the problem without an office in lieu of embassy.
Thank you very much for your time and expertise.